Picture this, there's zebras running around, giraffes elegantly strutting about, a beautiful giant African elephant tooting its horn. Is that what they do? Beautiful canopies of trees and blazing heat. The only thing that's missing is a B&M launch wing coaster. If you think, oh, that's so silly, Lou, that is so silly, get ready because I'm about to talk about something that actually is probably my most emotive topic for theme parks, and one that I think actually is quite important. More important than how many launches is the Bluey ride going to have. I think this is more important than even does Hyperia's branding suck. Oh, because this is talking about real creatures. Today's video topic is going to be talking about, if there are any, and negatives of having animals kept in theme parks as some form of attraction. Is this a wonderful route for conservation for animals and endangered species, or are we reliving the circus cruelty that we used to have that has been made illegal years ago? Now, as I say, this video is quite emotive for me because I absolutely love animals. I also love roller coasters and theme parks, but if you were to say to me, keep Tumble or keep the Smiler, obviously I'm going to choose the Smiler. And I think it's good that I explain that I have this bias at the beginning, because I imagine it actually will affect the way that I reveal these facts to you, but I'm going to try my best to stay neutral. But I do have a very scary creature watching over me, behind me, making sure I say the right thing. I've had a little research into the history of usage of animals in theme parks, the actual impact of roller coasters on the environmental welfare of these animals, whether it's worth it for the visitors, and in the name of education and conservation, and maybe a plan for the future for these theme parks that do like to have animals. If you're interested in topics like this about theme parks, not all of them will be this deep, make sure you subscribe because I make lots of videos. I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments as well. Do you even care that there are animals in theme parks? Do you make a point of looking at them? Do you want to swim with the hippo at Flamingo Land? I don't know, let me know. So when we talk about animals in theme parks, there is one specific case that has been very well documented around the world, so much so there was even a documentary made about it that really tugs on your heartstrings, and that is SeaWorld and their use of killer whales and dolphins and other marine life for shows and entertainment.
Dawn is the senior trainer here at Shamu Stadium.
She captured what it means to be a SeaWorld trainer, that it made me realize what happened to her really could have happened to anyone.
I've been expecting somebody to be killed by a telecom.
And we can look back at that and think, oh, it was so shocking. How could they make money off those animals? And I think the overall view is, oh my gosh, that was wrong. But we still have things like sea lion shows here in the UK. We have Caress the Starfish opportunity in Alton Towers Sea Life. And we even have like shows around the world in theme parks using horses, things like that. I heard that there's a bear at Alton Towers still being used. I'm just joking. Let's start off with a place that has got some news recently about their animals. Chessington World of Adventures, yay! If you don't know, they've recently relocated their lions to a new home, and that's not in Chessington, and it's a separate home for the lions. As they got older, their needs were getting a little bit more intense, and they needed to be rehomed in order to stay happy. Their own personal carer switched from working at Chessington over to their new location, looking after the lions. Apparently it was also their tiger has moved, which I'm really glad about. And this is what Chessington has to say about the reason behind it. They reviewed the evolving needs of each cat and concluded that they would benefit from a new setting with more space. Meow! When I saw this, I was quite excited because I thought, well, this looks like, for someone who doesn't want animals in theme parks, I'm going to say it, I don't want animals in theme park. This looks like a good sign moving forward for Chessington, but I have seen a lot of theme park enthusiasts be quite upset about this. They're like, oh, it's not...
Chessington's losing its old classic vibe.
I think people are making better arguments than that. I just can't really remember, sorry. Chessington hasn't just had some kind of petting zoo at their theme park. They've got some pretty incredible animals. Not that donkeys are bad. Such as leopards, sea lions, big, dirty, stinking tigers, giraffes, and Chessington claims to support the conservation of these animals. But I'm sorry. We have tried, but me and my husband couldn't really find any information or evidence on any of this conservation that they talk about. There was around £5,000 donated to a conservation fund, and I do know that they've given some of their baby lions away. But I don't know. If I'm missing some information, please tell me, but it doesn't seem as grand scale of a conservation project as maybe they describe. And I'm going to switch it into personal mode now. When I saw the tigers pacing around Chessington and that weird like tube that they can walk through over the pathway of people, maybe they like it because they like trees and stuff, but oh my gosh, that didn't look like a happy animal. All I've got to base that on is having many cats myself throughout my life, and I own 3 now, and I know when they're not happy. But so that looked like a distressed animal to me. But in fairness, I don't know a lot about tiger behaviour, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Ever since that moment, I've actually had to look inwards and think, if I really believe that animal is suffering and in danger, should I be giving money to a company that is putting it in that cage? I don't know. One of my friends told me about an incident.
So in 2017, a fox got into the penguin enclosure at Chessington World of Adventures and nom-nommed on some penguins. I think he nom-nommed on 7 or 8, but a couple were children penguins, a couple were adult penguins, so it's a very sad situation. But at least the fox had a great time.
A fox got into a penguin enclosure and ate them, and sort of harassed some capybaras as well, which suggests that the enclosures weren't adequate for these animals at the time. Now, apparently this was a long time ago, so I imagine improvements have been made, but again, you just think, oh, doesn't it give you the heebie-jeebies, guys? That makes me really sad. I'm gonna start crying. And one last point, when I did go to Chessington, we saw the enclosure for the sea lions, and I don't know if this is where they're currently kept or not, but I just saw that and thought, this hasn't been looked after. This isn't their priority at all here.
If you guys work at Chessington, can you please explain to me why I shouldn't be sad about this? Because this is making me sad.
Again, these are just like clues that these animals may not be at their happiest.
Should we set them free?
But I don't work with these animals, so I don't know. Enough about Chessington, let's talk about Alton Towers, who is owned by the same company, Merlin. So Alton Towers' relationship with animals. Alton Towers has displayed the risks of having animals at theme parks before in its past. The park actually operated as a zoo quite a few years ago when I was only about 20, from 1959 to 1963. They had monkeys, wallabies, bear cubs, yeah. The Alton Towers bear is that old. They had bear cubs. We go way back, the Alton Towers bear and I. Apparently they had a celebrity leopard. This is the name apparently. Big Chief Horrible Noise. If that was your nickname in school, you need to actually just start considering the effect you're having on the people around you. Big Chief Horrible Noise, who walked around on a leash. Ugh, it's making me cringe, but this was the 50s. There was less research on animals. It was rare for people to see animals in person. Like, it's not like everyone's seen all the David Attenborough documentaries and they're like, well, I've seen a tiger now. There was more interest for people to see animals in person. I remember, because I was in my 20s. I've just had a thought, guys, and I don't think these animals are alive anymore. Apparently the zoo was just unsustainable and a lot of the animals got moved to Colchester Zoo. But that wasn't the end for having animals at Alton Towers, as there was a little farmyard zoo. They had giant rabbits and miniature donkeys, ferrets and even chickens, but that would have annoyed the neighbours, the noise of the chickens. However, in 2001, foot and mouth disease outbreak meant that they had to close that area. But don't worry, animals came back to Alton Towers in 2007 with the furry friends. And I think if they called an area furry friends, in this day and age, you may attract a different audience. And again, these animals were relocated when CBeebies Land opened. And guess where they went? Over to Chessington. Yep, this is all connected, guys. Hey guys, I'm sorry for the ultra bright jump scare. I can't turn this light any darker. This is just a big old shout out to channel members James Smiles and big fan channel member Rollercoaster Sam. Thank you guys so much for your support, and if you're watching this thinking, I want to be a channel member but I have no disposable income and also I don't actually really care, well, you don't have to be a channel member to support me. You can just subscribe and like and comment and all that rubbish, and that already means the world to me. But thank you James and Rollercoaster Sam who have gone the extra mile to support Luweepoo channel. Okay, bye! So as far as I know, Alton Towers don't have any animals apart from the cute little kittens that run around in the gardens and a few robins here and there, but they don't actually keep any, and also the terrifying geese. But I think that's a really wise decision from Alton Towers in my opinion. I'm grateful that they learnt from their mistakes eventually and thought, we're just a theme park, roller coasters can be here. And that's even despite Alton Towers having a really wonderful landscape, lots of room for the animals. They still decided it wasn't the best idea. Apart from the sea life place where, as I mentioned before, you can caress a little starfish. Now starfish obviously don't have brains, so I don't know, I doubt they're thinking, please quit caressing me. I don't even know if they're capable of stress. So for that kind of thing, I don't know, but I'm not touching one. They're disgusting. I just said I love animals, but there we go. So recently I went to Flamingo Land, which is famous for having its own zoo as well. Not just flamingos, guys. There's loads of stuff there. Oh, it's pooing! What? Oh, what the heck? What's happening? Oh! They've got hippopotami, they've got zebrae, they've got lepi, they've got rhini. They were the first place in the UK to house bottlenose dolphins. Oh, yeah, they had bottlenose dolphins. What, the most intelligent mammal that exists? Ooh. They wouldn't be a fan of the operations in Flamingo Land today, would they? But that was 1963, so times have changed. They have corrected that. But also, it's worth noting, they briefly kept a killer whale called Cuddles until 1971. Oh, Flamingo Land, no. Oh, no. If you are interested, I found this on UK Dolphin Area, which I'm guessing is people who like dolphins. Piece of history here for you. Look, dolphins jumping. Don't know about that one. This one, gulp. And there's Cuddles, the killer whale. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that this was in the UK. What is that? There's Cuddles. There's a kid in a raft. This one made me laugh. A park that had a few ties with Flamingo Land was Pleasure Island. Oh, rest in peace, I miss you, Pleasure Island. I miss Hydromax the most. They had sea lions as well. So it is a very common thing for theme parks to have animals. Even Drayton Manor has had big cats and birds of prey, but Drayton Manor is a little bit more open about the work they do for conservation, and they work with people like the Red Panda Trust, which is cool. That is so cool. That's a charity I want to be a part of. Sorry, the Red Panda Network. The World Parrot Trust, which is so cute, which I think does demonstrate commitment to animals beyond just the entertainment for the guests. All right, yeah, we get it now. There are loads of theme parks in the UK that house many animal. Do the animals actually care that they're housed next to some very loud machinery, which is the roller coasters, and people who scream, and that they have hundreds of people walking past their enclosure every day? Do they actually care? Are they like, just another day, innit? Did they even see them? Is it a one-way mirror? Is it a one-way mirror? It might actually be totally fine. Well, if that's what you believe, unfortunately, the research does suggest otherwise. The most comprehensive scientific study on roller coaster impacts comes from Tato Park in Ireland, where they looked at how the assembly of an amusement ride affected behaviour on two tigers. This was actually published in the Journal of Zoo and Aquarium Research. Hopefully this is reliable information. So unfortunately, the study did reveal statistically significant behavioural changes in the tigers, particularly in the phase where the ride was being assembled. The male tiger spent predominantly most of his time off-show, which means indoors, during the time of the construction, and the female showed a strong enclosure bias with a space preference index of 0.87, which basically means she spent 87% of her time indoors hiding. I think this is very interesting because it turned out that the visual disturbance of the ride actually affected the tigers more than the audio disturbance did, and even more than the visitor numbers did. So as a result, maybe moving the tigers further away from the rides so that they can't hear them but still see them might not actually be the best way to reduce their stress, because the looming presence of moving trains actually seemed to really stress them out. Another way that they've combated this issue is by having sort of more off-show areas for the tigers. And I think that that's really good. They don't always have to be on show for the visitors, even though you might get a kid banging on the window like, "Why can't I see a tiger? Why can't I see a tiger, Mummy? Where is it?" You might just be stressing it out, Dan. And even like noise disturbances to animals, it can also disturb people, if you want to include those people, which, if you're familiar with all of the stuff about Alton Towers, the local residents in Stratford-upon-Avon often don't like the idea that Alton Towers creates so much noise. I'm not saying anything, I'm not gonna say it. It's low-hanging fruit. But it's good to know that the big sheep in Devon asked visitors not to scream on the rides. So that's something you can think about Alton Towers or Chessington or whoever. And although the visual thing affected... Oh, they're grooming one another. My cats are cuddling. Although the visual impact of the rides did provide more stress for the animals than audio did, there still is an effect from audio and noise pollution. This is so cute. And it was described that visitors screaming can actually be like a chronic stressor for these animals, which does confirm my fears. So the UK 2025 Standards of Modern Zoo Practice, which that's good that we have that, isn't it? They explicitly mention that they require species-appropriate environmental conditions. Just to keep this a fair and balanced video, I am gonna show you what wildlife education legend Steve Backshall has to say about animals in zoos. He actually has quite a lot to say, but in short, he does support zoos because of the passion that it ignites in children to love animals and look after the planet. However, he does mention in his list of examples of a badly done zoo cases like SeaWorld. So make of that what you will. Love you, Steve! So that's interesting, isn't it? I love Steve Backshall and I have lots of respect for him, so I will listen. But we are talking just specifically about roller coasters and theme parks and animals there. And it's not just tigers that have been researched. Apparently, clouded leopards showed negative correlations between enclosure height, meaning that they couldn't hide from visitors, and stress levels, which was actually measured in their poo.
Do the trick.
So again, maybe the solution is making sure that these animals don't have to be constantly onlooked by visitors. Is it just the zoo's fault? Well, how are they getting their money to fund for the animal welfare? Yeah, that's of course profit from visitors, but there is a dangerous feedback loop that's been observed across lots of zoos. If a visitor were to view the animal welfare to be poor and the living conditions to be poor, they are far less likely to come back to that zoo. And I'll put my hand up, same applies to me, meaning that there's less funds to support the animals and their welfare conditions get worse. And if this is a risk, it brings up the question, why even bother in the first place? Why are we putting animals in zoos when you can just watch a documentary on them? You can AI generate an animal. If you're interested in AI, watch this video. Don't AI generate an animal. What does that even mean? That'll be the new furry friends area in Alton Towers. Joking. Well, the actual global animals in theme parks industry generated $83 billion in 2022. So like 50 quid in British pounds, am I right? Which actually had a projection to reach $143 billion by 2032. So it's actually expected to increase. Let's have a think about Disney's Animal Kingdom. That draws a lot of people in. The ability to pay for an experience to live and look out your window and see a giraffe. Wow. Yeah. That appeals to me. I get it. And I think that when you see the animals on the wide open plains in Disney, you do think, oh, they're actually having a good time. And did you know that Disney's Animal Kingdom is actually the world's most visited zoo in the world? The world's most visited zoo in the world. Visited zoo. Wow. So theme parks are justifying this by saying this is educational, and I might counteract that by saying when I see an owl in a little cage the size of our living room. And then it says, oh, owls will fly like 12 miles at night. You think, well, this one's not flying 12 miles at night, is it? I don't know. Do they set it free? Probably not. And the more I learn about animals, the less I want them in enclosures like that. As I said, I am quite emotionally charged about this. Gosh, I just spawned a cat behind me. I am quite emotionally charged about this, so I may be lacking in rational thinking here. All right, well, who cares what I think? Because I'm just a goral. What about animal rights people? What do they think? Well, one of the highly criticised places was Cedar Point because some of their animals actually escaped, including camels, goats, llamas, which people thought demonstrated inadequate housing. Fair enough. They think that there's insufficient space for the animals, so they can't replicate their natural environments. There is evidence for chronic stress from noise and crowds and the impact of visual disturbances as well for the animals. That's one of their concerns. And the big one is that it's a commercial prioritization over the animal welfare prioritization, which, yeah, I can see that one. But there is an element of they are funding conservation efforts that would otherwise lack the funding. It brings awareness to animals that are endangered, and it helps people see them up close when they may never be able to if they're going to be endangered. And I love animals. Last time I saw like the toe of a sloth, I just started crying. That's not really relevant, I suppose. That's not actually relevant. Okay, so we know everyone's opinions now. Let's just finish this video by talking about what we can actually do going forward to keep everybody happy, but not just us, but the actual animals happy. The 2025 UK standards have increased the space required for these animals, and I don't know this to be true, but I noticed that at Flamingo Land they are expanding different enclosures and stuff for some of the big cats, which is good. I don't know if that's related, but it is good to see. And they want also environmental complexity. So not just one big rectangle, including various like heights for animals to climb to. There's advice to have more visual barriers between the animals and rides and stuff so that they don't get the stress from that. And as an extension, more retreat spaces for the animals. Some good enrichment like games and foraging and stuff for the animals will be good. And one that I think is really important is the staff expertise and that they know a lot about the animals' needs that they're caring for. I'm sure that the people who look after these animals are trying their best with what they've got. I think, to be honest, the problem does lie with the people who run the theme parks, not who look after the animals. So good job, guys. I know that you love them, probably. And I think another one that would be good would be some transparency from the theme parks to share what are they doing for conservation, like make that really open and public information, because I would love to know. Look, I'm looking at you, Chessington. I would love to know. I mean, their announcement about the lion was very clear. I'm glad that they shared that. But I'd love to know what else you're doing for conservation if you are. So with the prediction for the industry to only rise, I don't see theme parks cutting out animals as attractions anytime soon, which is what I would love to see, as unrealistic as that dream might be. Also, ultimately, I just want to see these animals happy, don't we all? And I'd rather see no animals than one unhappy animal. Oh, and this is totally kind of not really related at all, but I absolutely love the tank cleaning machine that they use at Alton Towers Sea Life, where they go like, it's a hoover that like sucks all the dirt up. That is so cool. I love that. Want to see like that in an elephant tank, please. An elephant tank, oh my gosh. Don't put elephants in tanks. What the flip? Like a big poo hoover. I don't know. Ugh. And please note that I didn't mention anything in this video about, the weather environment in the UK is so different, because at that point we're going to have to ban all zoos with animals that don't come from the areas that they live in, which I think is a whole other topic, and it's not one I'm prepared to talk about because I'm uneducated on it. So what do you guys think? Am I a crazy cat lady? Yeah. Does that mean that my opinions are irrelevant? Maybe. So if that's true, I would love to hear, hello? I would love to hear your views, but please keep it respectful and polite, if that's okay, because otherwise you're getting blocked. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you've gotten this far, thank you so much. Like, that is crazy that you've made it to the end of this video. I hope you've learned something. Okay, thank you. Bye.